Hello, I'm here for another story. I am very excited and I have started this stream just 2 minutes early because I just want to make sure that I can see your comments, because I think I've figured out a way to make it happen. So I've just typed as creative distance hello in the comment box, and it just somehow means it brings up my comments, and it means that when I start at 4 I'm not faffing around and waiting to fix it as well. So that is what I have done for today, and in 1 minute it will be story time. It's week, I don't know. I have no idea what week it is in terms of lockdown and how many stories I've told you now. But this story is, it's a story that I told a long time ago to a group of people, and they helped me write it. They actually helped me write this story. So usually when I do my stories, I tend to go to a place and I have an idea, and what I do is I go to the place and I give the idea to all of the people in the room, and they help me build a story. And this is one of the stories that they helped me build. And what I've done is I have sat down and I have tried to put some of our ideas that we had together in a little bit of a structure so that I can tell you the story. So this story is about a talented fairy, and it comes from a group of people that I usually work with in Streatham. It comes from a group of people I usually work with in Streatham. I miss them very much, and I'm actually thinking of sending them this video as well, so that they know that their story has been shared with all of you. And maybe if you feel like it, you can write down in the comments how you feel about the story, and I can send it to them with your comments about how you felt about the story that we built together. So this story is The Talented Fairy. I am going to start now because it's 4 o'clock, and I am just going to ask you to type down below the word... Oh, do you know what? Morgan came up with a really good one. He's just written story time. So could you write in the comment section story time, and I will just see how long it takes for you to get that to me, and I will try and see, you know, how long it takes for me to receive it. So if you could type below the word story time, just so I can see how late I receive it. And it's really good because I am seeing your comments. So I did see Morgan's comment earlier. Hello Morgan, hope you're doing well. So if you could type the word story time, it would really help me out. If you could type the word story time, it would really help me out. And yeah, I think I'm gonna... Excellent. Oh, I've already seen it. Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm honored. Thank you so much. Okay, so that wasn't too long. That was pretty quick. I'm really impressed with my internet today. So this story is about a fairy. This story is about a fairy, and she's there. She is sat on her flower there. And this fairy lived in a village. She lived in a village, and their houses were built out of mushrooms. Can you imagine? I wonder what living inside a mushroom would be like. I think it would smell quite earthy, don't you? I do as well. So they lived inside mushrooms because they were mushroom fairies. Now this fairy, she liked doing all sorts of things. She loved doing all sorts of things. One of her favourite things to do was splash in mud She loved to splash in mud. Look, she's getting all her clothes mucky in that mud, splashing in mud puddles. She also liked playing football with the heads of flowers. So she used to take the pollen bits of flowers and she used to kick them around like a football. She also loved to go running. She really enjoyed running as fast as she can because even though she had wings, she still liked to use her legs and run as fast as she could. She was a very active fairy. Now, this seems to be a bit of a problem. You see, in the Mushroom Fairy village, mushroom fairies had very strict rules. And one of those rules was you were not allowed to get mucky. You had to be graceful. So splashing around in muddy puddles was a big no-no. Dear. And when it came to being at any sort of fairy event, you weren't supposed to run everywhere because if you ran, maybe you'd fall over and maybe you'd hurt yourself. Oh dear, no, they didn't like the idea of running anywhere. You must float and flutter, graceful like a butterfly, because you're a fairy. And when it came to playing football with the pollen from a flower, oh my goodness, well, other fairies in Mushroom Village, they didn't like that either because when she kicked the ball made of pollen, it would make all the pollen come out into big yellow dust clouds and all the other fairies would sneeze and snot and yucky things like that. Was not proper for a fairy. Oh dear. So, the last straw happened when they went to the fairy ball. They went to the fairy ball, which was like a big party. And every year they'd have this big fairy ball. And all of the fairies in the Mushroom Kingdom would wear their best dresses that they'd made themselves. If you're a fairy, what might you make your best dress out of, I wonder? Maybe you can type below. What do you think they made their best dresses out of? I wonder. If I was a fairy, what would I do? Maybe type your answer below. If you were a fairy, what would you make your dresses out of for the fairy ball? Now, if I was a fairy, I'd probably be quite a spooky looking fairy, I think. I would probably make my dress out of spider web, because you could use the spider web as silk, or maybe you could use it like to sew with because it's like thread, and spider web is very, very strong. It can hold quite a lot of weight, so I think that it would be quite a nice strong dress if I made it out of spider web. What else do you think they would use to make their dresses? Mind you, I said I'd use spider web, but it might be a bit sticky because I don't know if you've ever touched a spider web, but they are very sticky, so I'd probably get a little bit stuck to things if I wore a spider web dress. Immy said pretty flower petals. Oh yeah, and think of all the different colours that you could use. You've got all sorts of coloured flowers. You could use blue petals and pink petals and red and orange and yellow petals. You could have a rainbow flowery dress. Oh, good idea, Immy. And Morgan, you said spider webs as well, Morgan, and leaves. I think that's a good idea, leaves as well, because you could get quite a nice different type of dress. And lots of different shapes of leaves as well, isn't there? You could have like big oak leaves, they've got quite a like sticky out shape, or you could have long thin leaves that you could put together. Ooh, very interesting. Using leaves. Well, some of those fairies took your ideas, and Imi, have a look. Can you see there's a fairy and she's made her dress out of rose petals. Look at that. Oh, a wooden dress. Oh, that would be very interesting. Oh, I like that idea. That would be really cool. And I really like, sometimes when you walk past like a carpenter or something, or somebody's chopping down the trees in their garden, you can smell that lovely earthy wood smell. That would be really cool. A wooden dress, very interesting. And our fairy, well, she also made her own dress, and she made it out of leaves, just like Morgan said, and she's got some flower petals there as well. So they went to the fairy ball. Now at the fairy ball, they had to dress, and they had to be very, very graceful, and they had to do fairy ballet, and they had to make sure that they were very, very formal. Well, our fairy, she didn't like that at all, because she just wanted to boogie. So there she is, having a little bit of a disco dance. I wonder what kind of fairy disco dance you would do. I'd probably do the same one as her, like this, or maybe I could do some of this as well. I don't know. Perhaps you could think of what fairy dances you would do. Oh, it was Charlotte's idea. Okay, fantastic. I like that idea, making a dress out of wood, especially the bark. That would be really cool. You could get lots of different structures out of that. Hold on to that idea, Charlotte, because I think we're going to need some wood soon in our story. So, loads and loads of different ideas there. And they were having a really good time. But the other fairies, they weren't so sure about our talented fairies dancing. They didn't like that she was disco dancing, and they didn't like that sometimes she'd splash in mud, and they didn't like that she was playing football with flowers. Flowers were meant for picking and smelling and making lovely dresses out of, not for making footballs out of. No. They decided to talk to her teacher at the school for mushroom fairies. And they spoke to her teacher and said, "You have to do something about that naughty fairy. She isn't very good at anything. She's not very good at dancing in fairy ballet, and she's not very good at keeping herself very clean and neat, and she's always running everywhere." Well, the teacher gave it a thought and decided she'd go and speak to this fairy. And so she did. She sat her down and said, "Listen, you are not very good at fairy ballet, and you don't seem very good at keeping yourself clean, and you always seem to be running. This isn't what fairies do. You see, fairies... What are fairies supposed to do, I wonder? Maybe you could type below. Can you remember? What are fairies supposed to do? What do fairies do? What are fairy jobs like? Perhaps you could type it below. And the teacher said, fairies are supposed to be graceful. They're meant to be very nice and graceful. And fairies are supposed to use their wings all the time and not run everywhere. What else are fairies supposed to do? You could type it down below. I wonder. Imi says, do magic! Of course! How could I forget? Fairies are so magic, aren't they? Oh, thank you for reminding me. So, fairies, said the teacher, are supposed to use their magic. You can't be running around. You're supposed to be learning how to be very good at your magic. And fairies, well, they're supposed to give you a present. Shalev, you're 10 steps ahead of me. Can you keep hold of that idea? And I'm going to remember that idea as well. Morgan's thought of it as well. You're all 10 steps ahead of me today. My goodness, you're all on the ball. So, I am going to keep that idea, Shalev and Morgan, but it is for later. That is very, very clever of you to think ahead. Fairies are supposed to do magic, and fairies are supposed to be grateful. And fairies, they don't do all of the stuff that you're doing. Well, how do you think that made our fairy feel? Well, she didn't feel very happy at all. She felt really sad because she was always really happy when she got to do her fairy boogie, and she was always really happy when she would make things out of flowers like footballs. Well, she decided that maybe she didn't belong in her mushroom village. She felt like she didn't belong in her mushroom village. So she flew as far as she could through the fields and through to a forest. And on the very edge of a forest, she found the perfect spot. She found a lovely, tall tree. And of course, that tree had lots of wood. Now, our fairy was very good at something, because she didn't just like making footballs, she also liked making other things. And so she took that wood and she decided to start building a house on the tree. So she started building her house. Now, what could she use? She used the wood for her house, and she also, maybe she collected some of those leaves as well. And she waved her magic wand and she made a beautiful house. And I've just taken the lid of it off like that so you can see inside. But she made herself a lovely fairy house. Can you see the lights inside? Oh my goodness, she must be in there somewhere. Can you see them? Shall we look inside her house? I'm going to bring you up. Are you ready? Whoop. Oh, look. Can you see everything that's inside her house? She looks like she's decorated it. She's done some painting in there. Maybe she's quite good at painting. And she used moss as her floor. And she's got a little table and some shelves. And on the other side, I'm not very good at this whole movement thing though. She's got all sorts of things. I know. Oh, thank you, Morgan. She's made her own little house. Yeah, with a bed and everything inside. Can you see the bed now? There we go. There's the bed there. And she's got a little shelf and table. That's where it looks like she eats her dinner over there. So she made herself a lovely little house and she started to live there. And in the forest, she felt like she could do anything. She could make anything she wanted, and she could splash in mud puddles, and if she really wanted to, she could go out and she could dance however she liked. Now, one day, she realised that she needed to build a wall, like a little wall for her garden. And so she decided to go and look for some materials. Now, next to her tree, there was a giant house made of something very hard. And she went to the window of that house and she saw big, tall people, humans. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like the house. I'll put some pictures up as well of it if you'd like. She saw big, tall humans. She looked, and there was one of the humans. He had these big, shiny things in their mouth, and they had pulled one out. And they pulled out one of these teeth, and they just threw it away. Oh, wow. This fairy went and inspected the tooth. It was quite hard. This could be quite useful, she thought. So she took the tooth and went back home, and she put it in the ground to start building her wall. But then she started to feel a little bit guilty. A little bit guilty because, well, she felt like she should do something to say thank you to the human for the tooth. So she went back to the house and she brought a gold coin. And it was one of the big ones that she'd seen the humans using. And she put it exactly where the child had thrown their tooth away. So the next day, the child went down and found a coin where their tooth used to be. Oh, that was pretty good. I wonder why that was. They weren't sure, but they pocketed that coin. Now, a few months later, and the child lost another tooth. And this time, they remembered that they had got a coin. So, they left it on their pillow and they went to sleep. And just in the middle of the night, they saw the glimmer of our fairy. And there she was. And she took the tooth and put the coin down. And then she whispered, "Thank you," and flew away. And she used that tooth to build a wall around her house. Well, the child realised this and started to tell other people too that there was a fairy that was taking her teeth and giving them a coin. Meanwhile, our fairy was doing very well. She was collecting teeth from all the children and leaving them gold coins, and she built a lovely wall. She was feeling quite happy, but she still was feeling a little bit lonely because she was on her own. This changed though because there was a group of forest fairies. A group of forest fairies that were on the other side of the forest from where our fairy lived. And one day they were flying through the forest when, wow, they saw a beautiful house, and it had a big white glistening wall around it. And they could hear a little bit of fairy music from inside. And when they looked over the wall, they saw our fairy having a really fun disco on her own. "Hello," they said. "Can we join you?" The fairy was very excited to see other fairies, and she welcomed them in, and they had a little bit of a fairy disco. And one of the fairies said, "Look, you are obviously a very talented fairy. We have been having a problem recently where goblins keep trying to knock our house down. How did you build such a strong wall? I've never seen a wall made of this stuff before. What is it?" And so the fairy explained that every night she was going and searching for children who'd lost their teeth, and she was swapping it for a gold coin to say thank you. Just like you suggested earlier, Shalev. So she started getting the other forest fairies to do the same. And so all the other fairies, they started to build walls and leave gold coins in return for teeth to other children. And they turned to our fairy and said, "You're so talented. All fairies should have been doing this. This is really clever." And our fairy felt really happy because she realised that she was good at being a fairy. She just had different ideas to other fairies, and that was okay. In fact, she realised that some of the fairies in the mushroom village that she used to live in were really good at making big dresses out of flowers. And some of the forest fairies that she met were really good at playing hide and seek in the leaves. She realised that everyone has lots of different talents, and if they all shared their ideas, then they'd all learn from each other, just like the forest fairies learnt to collect teeth from her. And so she started going and asking other fairies what they were good at. She asked some of the forest fairies to teach her how to be really good at hiding in the trees, and she asked some of her old Mushroom Village fairy friends if they could show her how to make dresses out of flower petals like they did. And all the other fairies were really grateful for this too, because they felt very clever at what they did. And I think that's something important actually, and that is what my friends in Streatham taught me. They taught me that it's okay to not be good at everything, because you're good at something. So one thing that I'm good at is I'm really good at, well, I think I'm quite good at making fairy houses. I really like my fairy house. I try and use it in everything. I wonder what you're good at. Maybe that's something that you could tell each other. You could write it in the comments if you like, or perhaps you could turn to the person that you're listening with and tell them something that they're good at and ask, what do you think I'm good at? And share what you think you're good at. And that is our story for today. Thank you so much for listening. That story, like I said way at the beginning, but I know some people joined a little bit later, but that was actually a story that I wrote with the help of some people that I usually tell stories with in Streatham. And they live in a house and they're all very talented in different ways, and they wanted to make a story about how to think about what you're good at, and that's what we came up with. We decided to find out, how did tooth fairies come about, and maybe it was because they learned that they were good at something, and that's how we came up with our story. So if you enjoyed it, please let me know. If you have any comments, then do let me know, because I'm gonna send hopefully some comments back. That would be really nice, because they're really missing having story time with me. I think they're a bit jealous that all of you have been having story time with me instead. And you said, oh, you're good at sewing? Oh, fantastic. Oh, and you're so welcome, Mimi. I'm really glad that you had a really good time. I really like telling stories to you as well. It's really fun. So thank you for coming back every week and listening, and for all your really good ideas. Today you were all 10 million steps ahead of me. You already knew that I was going to talk about building and using teeth. Oh my goodness, very, very clever. So that is my story for this week. I haven't decided what story I'm going to tell next week. I'm going to have to look. Oh, Shalev, you said you're good at building with cardboard and hot glue. That sounds so cool. I would love to see some cardboard creations. I'm terrible with cardboard. I'm really bad at it. And hot glue, well, my goodness, you must be really talented to be able to use hot glue, because that's not easy. I'm always making a mess with my hot glue gun. Oh, well done. Fantastic. I like hearing about all your different talents. So, where does the fairy get all these gold coins? Oh, I don't know. I wonder. And sometimes I've heard that sometimes fairies don't use gold coins. Sometimes they use silver coins, and sometimes they use I don't know, lots of different other ideas for presents. Or sometimes they just write a nice note or leave like a little bit of fairy magic around them. I think it really depends on the fairy. I think it really depends on a fairy. But that's a good point. I wonder where they do get their gold coins or any of their coins and gifts. Maybe they use their fairy magic to make them. Or maybe they use something to build them, or I don't know. Maybe that's an idea that everyone else can help with as well. Where do fairies get all their coins and gifts from? I like the idea that they maybe make them with their magic, but I don't know. I might have to do some extra fairy research on that one. You might have caught me. So, thank you so much for watching today. I don't know what story I'm going to tell next week. Maybe another fairy story, or maybe something different. If you have any feedback on what you like about my stories, so if you really like me including stuff like this, then let me know. If you quite liked the book that I made with the drawings in and stuff, these were all just doodles that came out of the last time I did the story, or you know, if you like it when I use my puppets, whatever it is that you like, let me know. And if there are things that you don't like as well, like if you don't like me mentioning your names, then let me know. Or if you don't like that I'm not using my signs as much, or if you know, whatever it is, feedback is really good, because it means that I can tell more stories to you in the way that you like them. Oh, Mushroom Kingdom and gold coins? I've heard of this land. Oh, that does sound very familiar. Okay, I'm gonna say goodbye now. I hope you have a really good week. There's loads of other stuff going on Creative Distance Fest. I'm really excited. The things keep popping up saying, am I ready? And I don't know. I'm excited and nervous, but I am. I'm ready. So keep looking on our page and see what else is going on as well. And I'm going to stop the video now, so I'll see you later. Bye!